Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room. It's a new year and a great day to review Metroid on the Nintendo Entertainment System, released in 1986. This iconic classic remains a favorite of millions around the world. Let's find out why. It's Metroid. Right? Yes, I'm holding up the correct game. Good. The ominous music still sounds good and brings back some memories. Let me tell you a story about the time a friend of mine down the street got his NES. And we spent a lot of time playing games like Super Mario Bros. He eventually picked up a copy of Metroid, which was unlike any game I had ever played up to that point. It was basically Alien in video game form, and Alien was one of my favorite movies. Even back then, it scared the hell out of me. Metroid certainly pays its respects to Alien in many, many ways. Now, as I'm recording this in 2085, most of you watching have probably played this game or are at least familiar with it. Maybe it doesn't even seem all that special to you, but back in 1987 or 88 when this was new, it was revolutionary because, for starters, it did away with the scoring that was so common in most games coming out of the arcade era. Metroid isn't about getting a high score, it's about survival. It literally drops you off in the middle of this dark cavern surrounded by enemies with barely any health and a wimpy gun. You have no idea where to go. So obviously you head left and pick up the thing that allows you to roll, which gives you access to the next area and a glimpse of this massive game in front of you, which was very, very uncommon back in the day, as was a password system or even the need for a password system. Most adventure games in the mid-80s were like Pitfall, games that cleverly made it seem like you were going somewhere, but really you were just going in circles and scoring big points. Metroid, on the other hand, is completely different. You are going somewhere, usually down into the depths of the unknown, and it's terrifying. There's no hope of earning some extra lives because you only have one, plus the addition of a password save system, which was an incredible pain in the ass to write down and then type back into the NES. They're really long codes. But I can't even remember how many days we would just run around in the darkness and maybe occasionally find one of the hidden passages or a missile or health upgrade. The game seemed endless at the time. And the music and the visuals were just downright creepy and really, really cool. This is the first time I've played Metroid since I was a kid, and the experience is completely different, primarily because so much of this game has now become pop culture. You know what to expect when you play Metroid now. If you get stuck, a map is only a few button clicks away in the internet. But it's still really tough. If you get killed, you'll lose most of your health when you respawn and have to find some place to grind and get it all back. Also, the boss battles are extremely challenging. I still love the level design and the art design and the character design in Metroid, but what really gets me is all the hidden stuff. How did we find this back in the day? It's hard to imagine how much more time we had back then. And games were expensive, more than they are now. When I got a game, I played the hell out of it because it's like the only game I had for a long time. You couldn't just go into a store and pick up a pile of used games for $20 back in the 80s. Unless they were Atari games, and nobody wanted those except me. That's actually where I got all my Atari games, on Super Sale. But NES games were not going on Super Sale, especially Metroid. In fact, this game still holds its value today. By now, there's been numerous sequels on pretty much every Nintendo game platform. It's one of the most popular video game franchises in existence, and you can easily pick up Metroid on the Virtual Console for Wii, Wii U, and 3DS. If you love classic games, you owe it to yourself to try and play your way through Metroid at least once. But where am I going with this flashback? Why am I talking about the past? Well, this game reminds me of the time when the NES suddenly became the game system that everyone had to have. And there's nothing I can compare it to today. There's no modern equivalent of the NES and what this did to the world and all of my friends around me in 1986 or 87, when everybody else had an NES but me. You can freeze enemies, you can attack them by spinning. This has giant brains that shoot lasers at you. Are you kidding me? There was nothing like this on the Atari 7800. And I love my Atari 7800. I think Metroid may have been the moment when I got really jealous. And eventually talked my parents into an NES. But to be honest, I was never any good at it. In fact, I think my friend did most of the playing and I was rooting for him most of the time to defeat the enemies. Not surprising, considering how terrible I am at this game. I'm still bad at platformers. Yay, more health. For those of us who were kids in the 80s, just try to put yourself back in that time and remember how much more advanced the music and the visuals in Metroid were than just about everything else out at that time. You know what this game actually reminds me of is Thexter. One of my personal favorites. In Thexter, you're also exploring giant, dark caverns filled with enemies, except you're a transforming robot, so you're really powerful. In Metroid, you're always outgunned. Always. Which is why exploration is so critical. You have to find all of the upgrades if you want to have any hope of defeating the bosses, which are insanely difficult. And the hidden stuff is well hidden, too. If you're playing without a map, it'll take hours and hours of shooting and rolling and just jumping into things to find stuff. If you're playing with a map, the game is far more straightforward, but, you know, back in the day that just wasn't an option. I don't even remember if Nintendo Power ever published a map. I still remember that feeling of reading it every month or whatever, hoping it had a map of Zelda or something. Like, please show me where the thing is, I'm stuck, there's no internet. Somebody invent the damn internet. And of course, nobody was gonna let me call the 900 number tip line or whatever that was. Ah, Metroid, you're still a great game. And I like this level a lot. Eyeballs encased in ice cubes. I mean, come on, this is good stuff. I've actually really enjoyed playing this again. It's frustrating at times, I'll give it that. The boss battles in particular are a real pain in the ass. And while the ending of Metroid is pretty well known by now, I mean, the character has gone on to do many other things, and she's also married to Casey Munchkin. At the time, it was another one of those mind-shattering, life-altering kind of things. Like, what? You mean it's a girl? Sorry, I guess that was a spoiler. But how about this one? Ms. Pac-Man is a man. Stock up on health because you're about to get your ass kicked. It's Metroid on the NES, and you can also find this for pretty much everything else with a Nintendo logo. It's one of the all-time greats. Suit up and explore. Just don't forget your sports bra.